My life be like, ooh, yeah, ooh. My life be like, ooh, yeah, ooh. Yeah, ooh. My life be like.
Well, the first step in making our solution is measuring out our solute, which is the material that will be dissolved into our water, which is our solvent. Today we're going to be using ferrous chloride. We're going to be measuring out 5 grams of ferrous chloride with this balance right here. But before we do that, we have to zero our balance. We do this by first placing what we're going to hold the ferrous chloride with, pushing the 0 button. It's at 0. We take off the lid. Using our handy dandy spatula, we gently add ferrous chloride, making sure that it stays on the paper until we get to 5 grams. If we need to, we can tilt the little cup, make it go out a little faster. But we definitely want to use our spatula because we don't want to get anything on our hands. Getting awfully close to 5 now, 4.52. I'm going to start adding it slower using the spatula so not to overfill it. The button that we actually use to zero this scale is called the tare button. It's right here on these scales. We're almost to 5 grams now. I will gingerly add the last of our solute. Slowly, so not to go over. There we are. We're at 5 grams. Oh, 5.01. There, now we're at 5 grams. In today's lab experiment, we'll be using a few different pieces of lab equipment. First off, 100 milliliter volumetric flasks. We have 2 different kinds of lids here. One's a snap cap. Just snaps right onto the top of said volumetric flask. The other one is an inserted cap. You just simply put in the tip, press in, and twist to seal. Also, we'll be using a pipette, volumetric pipette. 5 milliliters today. This is used by squeezing the plunger, pressing to the top, putting into the solution, drawing it out by releasing pressure on the top. Then when it reaches this line here, quickly place your finger over and gently lift the tip of your finger to allow air in to displace the water until it gets down to this line, which marks 5 milliliters. First thing we're going to want to do is get our clean volumetric flask. This one has been cleaned with distilled water with several rinses to get rid of anything else that was left from the last people who used this. What we're going to want to do is take our piece of paper without spilling any of our solute. Gingerly roll the piece of paper, crimp the tip so to make a finite pouring angle, and then we simply pour it in. You can either use this paper or you can use a funnel, depending on your level of comfort. I've been pouring this for years, so I know what I'm doing. There. Now that our solute is in our volumetric flask, we'll move on to the next stage, which is adding the water. Alright, we have our solute in our volumetric flask. We're going to be filling the volumetric flask about halfway, swirling it lightly, and then slowly filling it the rest of the way up to this line right here. This line marks the 100 milliliters of solution. Put the edge right on the tip of our water spout. We'll slowly add going to be turning it because we have some solute stuck to the side of our container. That's about halfway. Put on our cap and commence mixing. After mixing, the first time, we remove our cap with a gentle pulling, twisting motion. Then we repeat, adding the water more slowly this time so not to overfill it. Just get a nice slow dribble going. Then we slow it even further as it approaches the top. Now when it gets almost to the line, you're going to want to get down on eye level so that you can see when it reaches the little line, when the meniscus reaches that little line. The meniscus is the top of the bubble that is created by surface tension on the water. Flick if you have any bubbles to remove them. May not be able to see it, but our meniscus is actually on the line. We have a bit of solute and bubbles mixed up at the top, but that's all right. That'll come out later. We put on our cap. Then holding the cap, so not to allow it to fall off or have spillage. We turn upside down, right side up. Inverting causes the mixture to become mixed. We will mix like this until there are no more solids visible and everything is dissolved. We'll speed up this part of the video to make sure that you don't get bored. Now we've come to the dilution part of the experiment. We're going to be diluting 5 milliliters of our solution into yet another 100 milliliter volumetric flask. And with our 5 milliliters of this solution, we will be diluting it with distilled water, about 95 milliliters, up to the 100 milliliter line. What we're going to do first, remove our cap, and proceed to use our pipette. I have my pipette, 5 milliliter. I'll proceed to placing it, steady hand as I can, into the solution. About midway, so not to suck up anything that may have not been dissolved off to the bottom by some off chance. Squeeze the plunger, place on the top, firmly but not pressing too hard, and allow to extract by way of suction. If it takes more than one plunge, don't worry, you can cap it with your thumb, squeeze the plunger again, we now have our 5 milliliters of solution in our volumetric pipette. I've stopped it with my thumb. I will release my thumb and allow the liquid to pour into the other 100-liter volumetric flask. Be patient and be sure not to blow into it. If there is some residual juice in the bottom, solution iron rather, you may proceed to gently, very gently, pressing down on the plunger to get it into the flask. Move it, and I'll set this off to the side to be cleaned. Okay, we have our 5 milliliters in our 100 milliliter volumetric flask of solution. We're going to dilute this solution by adding distilled water all the way up to the fill line, which marks 100 milliliters. Once again, fill about halfway, add our cap, twist to make sure it's secure, and give light swirl to make sure that it dissolves perfectly into its water. Remove the cap with a light twist and pull, and we'll add the rest of our water. Once again, slow dribble to ensure that we do not overfill it. And there we are. And our meniscus is right on the line. Alright. We will mix this by inverting the bottle once again to ensure that all of our solute, which is our solution in this case, to dissolve into the solvent. That should be fine. From here, we will calculate our results.